Hey everyone, my name is Clover, and today we're taking a look at the new hero, Mauga. Now, Mauga is part of the tank role, and he's got some crazy stats, actually a lot of stats, and we'll go through them one at a time. The first thing that we'll take a look at is his chain guns. We've got the Incendiary chain gun, aka Cha-Cha, and then we've got the Volatile chain gun, aka Gunny. I believe those are the names that he gives them, but someone can correct me down in the comments. Now, the Incendiary chain gun does exactly what you might expect. It ignites a target, does a little bit of fire damage. It's not close to Ash's damage whatsoever, but it does like 50 damage over time. And the Volatile chain gun is just a normal gun that doesn't have the status effect. But when you combine them together, that's when they're powerful. So the first order of operations is actually to ignite the target and then chain gun. And the Volatile chain gun does critical damage to targets. Now, looking at the damage done to Roadhog, who has 500 HP, only shooting body shots. That's quite insane damage, and the fire is just long enough that you're just going to melt through a target. Imagine you have other teammates involved, and this Roadhog doesn't exist. A couple more mechanics to note is that when you fire the chain guns individually, they're more of a pinpoint. When you fire them simultaneously, it's a massive spread. So while it is good for just absolutely obliterating a target up close, it's not good from range. We can do a range test a little bit later. When you also fire a gun, you are slightly slower. When you use both, you're extremely slow. Very reminiscent of Diva when she's using her guns. You might also notice that when I shoot, the ammo is shared. So it's another thing when you're talking about ammo conservation, which I don't think applies to him when he has this much ammo, but something to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is that there is a little bit of wind up. You can't just press a trigger, so there is a little bit of a delay. Don't think that will come as a factor, but maybe it will. And the last and probably most important feature about this is that when you do critical damage to targets, actually hit headshots, right? So body shots don't count. Actually hit headshots, you gain HP, as you can see in the bottom left. Now, tanks in practice range do have 150 less HP than they would normally. So actually this hero doesn't have a base health of 500, has a base health of 650, and you can gain a maximum of 150 over health while doing critical damage. So there could be cases where you're getting ran over by Reinhardt, let's say, and he's swinging onto you. If you aim for the head and you just spam both of them, you could sustain through that damage and melt the Reinhardt too. The range test basically just shows why this is the best gun in the entire tank category. And if I just go to 20 meters, we'll start at 20. You know, something that very few tanks even have. Like Zarya has 15 meters. Sigma is the only one who has further range in Ball. Those are like the top 3 guns in the game. But this weapon, which you want to lead with your Incendiary, so you already have damage just based off of the fire. But it's gotten crazy damage just by shooting bodies. We'll even go a little bit further. Get the fire. Compared to other hit scans, they would love to have this damage and the fire effect attached to it. But the kicker is when you get them on fire and the Volatile, you don't even need to hit the headshot. You can just do that. I mean, you're still aiming for the heads because that's your primary way of sustaining yourself, besides your other abilities, which we'll look at. But dude, that's just insane. We'll go a little bit further at past 30 meters, and you can really see his damage fall off. It's still crazy insane, and I mean, most other hit scans don't have this range anyway, but it's still crazy to see this hero have that much range. The next thing that we'll take a look at is the ability Overrun. Now, Overrun is a movement ability that has some utility options to it. The Overrun ability functions exactly like Reinhardt's charge, except it's infinitely better because it has CC reduction, which means you can't stun him out of it with like a hinder grenade or a sleep dart, and you can't redirect him or displace him with boops. He also has insane turn radius, which Reinhardt players would only dream of on a 6-second cooldown. This makes him one of the most survivable fast tanks there are in the game, and if you're not a dive tank, he has the best mobility of all the tanks. I can almost make that 360-degree turn. It's pretty close. Now, looking at the range of it too. So pinging 40 meters here. Let me go straight to that target. The man can go 35 meters with this.
Going so soon.
I'm talking about mobility options. Might see where I'm going with here. Yeah, he can cross gaps like that, which is something that might not be too useful because the leap vertical height isn't too strong, but it's the fact that there are options that he can just do this. I don't think I can make it back down because I need to be on flat ground, and it does have a lead up to it. So let me try again. Yeah, so like you can only cross like 5 meters before you just plummet. Something to keep in mind. And I just want to demonstrate the slope aspect. So on slopes, he doesn't leap up, he leaps more horizontal. So this might play a part in, you know, getting the slam effect faster, or maybe it gives him more range. I don't really know, but yeah, he can't cross gaps like this. And that's just crazy to see. I should also mention that there is a minimum cast time before you can actually use the stomp part of his kit. Right, I'm trying to spam my mouse 1, but I can't. There's a little bit of delay before you can actually stomp, so you're committed with the ability for a short time. You can also cancel the ability, which might be useful at the end of like your charge, because you don't want to fall off the map. And you just stop, you don't even do a stomp. Now let's take a look at the damage and utility side of his overrun, namely with the stomp. Actually, what I want to do is just run into someone first to see how much damage that does. So it does a brief knockback, and it does 25 damage. Nothing too bad. Now I want to use the stomp and land on someone here. So maybe we can use... Well, we'll wait for this guy to come out. We'll stomp right on him. He does a stun, and it does 75 damage, maybe 80 damage. That's pretty powerful. A stun with 80 damage AoE? That's like Wrecking Ball Pile Driver. Pretty much. All right. We'll reset him. Wait for this guy to come out now. And we want to land just away from him. Something like that. Does a knock up. This one did like 25 damage, I think. Let's try again here. Yeah, 30-40 damage. The last ability before we get into the ultimate is the Cardiac Overdrive. Now the Overdrive is kind of what I would imagine as a Brig Rally, a very short duration of course, and it will allow teammates to deal damage and heal themselves, as well as reduce the amount of damage taken. So that's his defensive cooldown. Maybe I can show it here. If I press it, I've got 2 people in my radius, 3 people now. It can go through walls, so you can break line of sight. I don't know if you can break line of sight for a certain amount of time before it runs away, or if it's just anyone who's near me. So I got 1 person, 3. Oh, so, okay, so it does linger and then deplete over time. So it is line of sight based. So let's see if I can have any influence on this high ground. The distance is 13 meters here. So it doesn't seem to work, but you can kind of see its hitbox a little bit. Yeah, so it's more like a cylinder. It doesn't have a sphere around it. So that's something to keep in mind. It doesn't really work vertically. You have to be on the same level as Mauga. Pretty decent range. 10 meters or so. Not bad. The last thing I want to test with this ability, because it's hard to know what its impact is without knowing the numbers. I'm just kind of guessing here. All right, took my punishment. Now let's use the ability here, and let's see if these things stack. Oh my goodness. All right, he's got to take a breather, but you have to work for it. That's essentially it. The overhealth is actually something that I should bring up. Like, that's very powerful because it can't be stopped by anti-nades or anything like that. So he can always gain health no matter where he's at. And lastly, we do have the ultimate ability, Cage Fight. Now, Cage Fight, when you use it, you have this little deployable here that locks people in this cage. It's a big Winston bubble that is a cylinder, and no one can get any healing in. I can't even leave through it. So if you're trapped in there, they're there for until the ultimate ends, or you win the duel. Or maybe if you catch multiple enemies, you'll fight the whole team. So let me actually get my ultimate because... All right, we'll just run there. All right. Do-do-do. 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 All right, now we're back, ready for the cage fight. I'll use it. People are chained. I wonder if they're just slowed. Oh, okay, so if they have that line of sight, they're just slowed. But there is a radius to it. Pretty neat ultimate. It could secure some easy kills. I think it's a pretty good function if the idea is that you just want to solo kill with some people. That's fair enough. You just have to be careful that you're not going to get support, because likely you're going to have your teammates over yonder and not fight with you in the cage. So that's one thing to keep in mind. However, if you do have your ultimate and you have your cardiac overdrive, you can in fact just like heal up and be completely fine, get a kill. That being said, you are using your abilities and you will just have this like huge downtime. So some things to consider, but that's all I have for Mauga here. The emote is kind of hilarious. But yeah, until then, I'll see you when I see you. Peace out.